Good morning. Good morning. Yo, what's up? Morning. There we go. This ain't church. That was yesterday. Good morning. Y'all can come up for the front. I ain't going to take no offering, I promise. This ain't church. Good morning. My name is Troy Lamell Stovall. I've humbly for the last 2 years, yes, I'm a 2-year-old, serve as the CEO of TEDCO, Maryland's innovation and entrepreneurial, where we help start, grow, build, and scale, and eventually exit Maryland-based technology firms. And we're so excited about the work that we do and the work that we continue to do on and for the state of Maryland. But I just want to say thank you all for being here on a little dreary Monday morning. This is an exciting time for us to be able to put this on. This is our first ever doing this, and I'll give you a little history of that in a minute, but excited about the companies that we have here today. But you know, this is about ecosystem building. And if you really understand what an ecosystem is about, it's about that no one of us can do it alone. That we all need one another, and we all need to come together. And at TEDCO, we talk about there are 3 challenges that every entrepreneur faces. Every entrepreneur. Every entrepreneur faces the challenge of time. They never have enough of that. Do you? Do you, Sue? Never have enough time. Second one, and by the way, I grew up Catholic. I know I actually want to be a priest, but I grew up around a lot of Baptist ministers, my family. So I talk in alliterations. So y'all will forgive me for that. So grace on that. So the first T is time. The second T is talent. Never have enough talent to get it done. Don't have enough intellectual capital. Don't have just a body just to turn off the lights and sweep the floors at night. And I needed a third T. So the third T is treasure. It's treasure. And treasure isn't just about fiscal resources. It's not. Because so many of you, and thank you all for submitting, and not just to TEDCO, but to the other resources we have here in Maryland. But treasure is also about, you need access to a lawyer. You need access to other talent. You need access to a wet lab, 3D printing, whatever that thing is. So what is that we do with TEDCO? We help you get back a minute. We help you get back a minute. We give you access, and actually, I saw Julia here earlier and Ann. We're going to be launching a talent portal where you're going to be able to find those talent that has gone hidden from you. We're going to help you identify that talent. And we are going to give you that treasure map where X marks the spot. Okay? But back to ecosystem. In order to do that, we need partners, we need friends. And so what we talk about how to make that happen is here in Maryland, and I know we have folks, and by the way, I want to thank those of you who traveled beyond the borders of Maryland, who came across the Potomac, across the Mason-Dixon line to get to us today, who got on a plane to come here today. Thank you for taking your time to come here. So here in Maryland, we're here with TEDCO, with the help of our board led by Omar Bahamid here, who's here. Thank you, Omar, for your leadership and support. We talk about this notion of scaling. We talk about this notion of stitching, and we talk about this notion of storytelling. And so why are those 3? Because with scale, what we need are the resources. We need to add a zero. When we're putting $5,000 into something, I know some of y'all entrepreneurs understand this, we need to put $5 million into it. And we put $5 million into it, hell, it might be $5 billion. It needs to be a number. We need to add some zeros. And we do that, and how we do that is because, look, here in Maryland, we're not actually, look, I grew up, as I told you, in Texas. And Maryland is big enough to fit in a county in western Texas. It'd take me a day and a half to drive across Texas. I can get done in Maryland in just a couple hours. It just ain't that physically big. And so my point is, we've got to find a way to work together more. Said another way, we got to stitch together. And that's what we're doing here today. We're stitching together. And through stitching together, we can tell better stories. And if we scale better and stitch better and storytell better, you know what we'll do for here for Maryland? We'll create a higher level of stickiness for companies that start, grow, and scale here in the state of Maryland. That's what this is about today. Thanks for the companies, and I'll introduce them later and introduce our friends here that are here with us today. But I want to close before I introduce one of our guests here today with this. So I can tell you I grew up in Texas, actually in Houston, Texas. And I used to work at the NASA, Johnson Space Center. And I'm aging myself here. I was in high school. So I wrote a little bit of code that when they were dropping the space shuttle off the top of 747s, yes, that's, I'm more than 2 years old. And so I grew up thinking, after I decided I wasn't going to be a priest, my next career choice was to be an astronomer or an astronaut. So why is this idiot telling this story? This is why. Because what today is about all of you exist in your orbits. But today is about how do we intentionally make those orbits collide? How do we find new collisions? And when new collisions happen of these bodies, you know what they do? They create a new gravitational constant to draw in other bodies and create a new celestial body. And that's what I want you all to do today, is find an orbit that you wouldn't have not had collided with but for today. Today is about creating collisions. Today is about creating new bodies. Today is about creating new gravitational constants. Today is about creating new scale. Today is about creating a new thing of a new thing. A new thing of a new thing. That's what today is about. So I want to thank how this came together. I'll introduce Senator Cardin, but his office, the folks from his office that are here, thank you for your support. Obviously, the entire thank you. We call ourselves a TEDCO, the one TEDCO team. I see them all here today. They've been outside, they've been working, they've been scrambling, they've been working, and she's probably going to shut my mic off when I say her name, but I don't care. You know, I got to thank Ms. Tammy Thomas and the marketing communications team. I know. And so, you see, she already cut my mic off, I told you. So I want to just thank you all for being here today. So with that, I talked about an ecosystem, and the ecosystem has multiple parts to it. And part of that is the role that the government has to play in this. And, so we have Mr. John Fleming, who's the Mid-Atlantic Administrator for the Small Business Administration, who's going to be here to give us some remarks. John. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anything? Oh, there we go. Everybody's doing good? You're looking good? How do I look? My suit barely fits. COVID-19 means you can add 19, right? I probably added 22. Just did a little more. I guess I'm the opening act for Senator Cardin. I'm glad to hear some laughter, because I actually do stand-up comedy. Most of the jokes I can't tell you here, but if you want to see me, I'm up in Harbor de Grace in the State Theater up there. Did I say that right? I'm new to Maryland. And I've appeared there a few times. I've made a grand total of $150, but that does make me a professional, right? Anyway, you didn't come here to hear that. It's about ecosystem, right, as was already said. And what the SBA, maybe prior to a couple of years ago, you barely heard of the SBA, but now everybody knows about the SBA, thanks to the Treasury giving us all that work. So a little bit about who I am. I've just passed June as 30 years with the SBA. My position as regional administrator, I was appointed last fall. The way SBA is structured, of course, we have a headquarters in DC. We have 10 regions. I'm one of 10 regional administrators, and then we have about 68 cities throughout the country. I act as a liaison between the administration and those cities. All those services, that might be my call getting me out of here. My Uber. So like I said, I'm one of 10, and our services are delivered by the district office in each of the major cities. Now I'm a little bit different as a regional administrator. I'm the first one as a career person to be appointed. Normally these jobs go to people that work on a Senate staff or people that work on a campaign, but I was asked by Senator Coons from Delaware, which I served for 10 years as a director, to serve the Biden-Harris administration, to be a part of it. So I've done every job at the SBA that you can possibly think of, and including women's rep. That was an interesting conference. But anyway, I am, prior to the SBA, this is my first job out of college, and prior to that, I actually served in the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah. I know I look like I ate 2 Marines on my way here. There's another part of that joke that I can't tell, but anyway. So what do we do? What do we do at the SBA? It can be summed up in what you all know as basically 3 C's to help people out and help companies succeed and grow. We, of course, provide access to capital. That's the first C. Normally, it's done through a 7A or 504 program, which are guaranteed. Kind of works like your student loan. Government provides a guarantee, the bank provides the money, and you get the access to capital that you need, that we find out is tough to get a hold of. So that's why we exist. Prior to, that was our normal life going along, and then PPP came along and EIDL got expanded, and here we are. Just to give you an idea of what that kind of impact it had on us, normally SBA does about 80,000 transactions a year between grants, loans, all the other approvals that we do. The last 2 years, 2 full fiscal years, instead of 80,000, we were averaging about 8 million transactions a year. A lot of it was done through technology and software, but you just see the burden that was put on us. We still have employees that are still working for us temporarily because of COVID, and we're trying to wrap up those programs. So what else do? We provide counseling and training. Training can be part of these events that we do. We also are partners with SBDC SCORE and the Women's Center, and they provide the training. And then last but not least, we provide access to government contracting. Easy way to go on. Even if you don't want to learn a lot about government contracting, just register yourself on sam.gov. You can become a subcontractor. The goals have been changed and modified and improved under the Biden-Harris administration to make sure that equity becomes the theme and help more people get into the government contracting realm with as little barriers as possible. So that's where we are. Let's see. If I could just, I know we want to hear from the senator, but I'll be around for the rest of the conference. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and have a good conference. Thank you again.
Hold up. John, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your support. I appreciate you, so you can have some TEDCO paraphernalia.
All right.
Appreciate you. Thank you, sir. So on the SBA, just quick before we introduce the senator, because he was a big part. So he mentioned the State Small Business Credit Initiative, SSBCI. That's a $10 billion program that the federal government has sent out. It's going to all the states and the areas. Maryland received $198 million. Of that 198 is being managed by our friends at DHCD. Of that 198, TEDCO is going to receive $50 million. Of that 50, we're going to put into 4 vehicles. The first is we're going to put a little bit more money into what we call our venture fund. That's our big fund that invests in our Series A, Series B. We're writing $1.5 million, $2, $3 million checks. We're going to put another set of money into our seed funds where we're doing the seed stage investments. But the 2 that matters here today, one is we're going to be putting money into our social impact funds. Those are going to be entrepreneurs and communities that have been underinvested. and how do we put money into those, both communities as well as founders that have been underinvested. And then lastly, we're going to put money into, we're going to become an investor in investment firms that are managed by women, people of color, first-time fund managers. So all that's coming through the efforts of the SBA. So thank you for that. That doesn't happen without, obviously, leadership in Congress, and I couldn't be more happier. Again, we've worked with his office to put this on. I couldn't be happier to introduce Maryland's U.S. Senator Ben Cardin. Thank you, sir.
Well, Troy, first of all, thank you so much for the kind introduction, but thank you more importantly for putting on this tech fair. TEDCO, of course, is our economic engine for innovation and technology here in the state of Maryland, and we thank you for what all you do. John, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate everything the SBA is doing, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Well, I'm feeling better today. It's a good football weekend. We were a little nervous getting it. I wasn't worried about the Terps. They had a pretty easy time of it, but the other teams had a little bit more difficult time. So I'm all excited. Now, look, small businesses are the growth engine of our economy. We're going through a very tough time right now because of global conditions. We just are still in the pandemic, and we know what impact that had on our economy generally, but on small businesses. We're now suffering through inflationary pressures globally with supply chain challenges that affect small businesses more dramatically than larger companies. We have workforce issues with the supply of workers. We know how challenging it is during normal times, but when you have a shortage of workers, it's even more challenging for small businesses. And then we have supply chain challenges with the war in Ukraine. All that makes it so much more challenging for small businesses. But I start by telling you, small businesses are the growth engine of our country. That's where jobs are created. Congratulations, you all do it. You also are the innovators. You figure out ways to deal with current problems. And we need you. It's very interesting. We're having a little challenge right now getting this BIR, STTR programs reauthorized. We'll get it before the end of the month. But it was interesting that one of our greatest allies is the Secretary of Defense, because he knows that if we're going to have the next generation of technology that will keep our nation safe, it's going to start in the small businesses of America. So we need to make sure that we have a healthy fiber, for healthy infrastructure for small businesses here in this country. And we also know that small businesses are not as able to deal with economic downturns. That you don't have the deep pockets. You don't have the cash available. You don't have the personnel that can deal with all these challenges that develop. So when the pandemic struck in 2020, Congress working together, Democrats and Republicans working with the administration, we passed unprecedented government partnerships to help our small businesses. The Paycheck Protection Program, the EIDL Loan and Grant Program, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, the Shuttered Venue Funds, and the list goes on and on and on. And it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. It kept small businesses alive and our economy alive. And we didn't go through the big downturn everybody thought we would, because Congress acted in a responsible way to deal with it. But we also learned from that experience that the underserved, underbanked small business community needed special attention. We recognize that just providing help to small businesses, if we used the traditional methods, many small businesses would be left behind. So we did things to correct some of the earlier bills, some of the earlier tools that we developed. We codified and strengthened the Minority Business Development Agency. We provided funds for CDFIs because we knew that mission lenders would be more likely to lend money to small businesses that have a hard time with banking relations. And we put special attention on dealing with the EIDL programs, the loan and grant programs, because we knew that the smaller small businesses, those that are more located in disadvantaged communities, are more likely to use the EIDL programs. And we were successful. The later rounds of grants and loans were much more balanced than the original ones. We learned from that experience. Now we got to build on that. We learned something else during the pandemic, that small businesses figured out a way to deal with the changing consumer marketplace. You recognized that you couldn't depend upon foot traffic. You had to use the social media and the internet. So whether your business was retail or restaurants, or whether you were providing health services or other professional services, you recognized that you had to figure out a way to connect with consumers who were not interested in physically coming to your location. And you learned that. You figured that out. And this is why this tech fair is so important. And that's why I thank TEDCO for doing this today. Because this is the economy that we're in today, and it's certainly the economy of the future. How do you use social media? What's all this cloud stuff? I know it's cloudy outside today, but figure out how do you utilize all this? That's what you're going to learn here today at TEDCO, at this fair. And that's why I'm so excited that so many people are in this room and so many of the tech companies are participating with us today. Take advantage of it. We're not finished. I want to thank Administrator Guzman. She is focused on helping you with tech and helping you with cybersecurity. I want to thank my staff at the Small Business Committee in the United States Senate, Sean Moore and company that are here. We are focused on how we can help small businesses grow. So we know they deserve a round of applause. You know, I get the attention, they do all the work that's out there. But we have an agenda to move forward. We recognize that capital is still a major challenge for a lot of small businesses. We're looking at how we can improve programs such as the Community Advantage 7(a) program, how we can do direct lending through SBA for those small businesses that can't access traditional capital. We're looking at emerging markets and how we can do a better job. We know that when you deal with risk capital, it is very difficult for young companies to be able to get that type of capital. We're looking at different ways to handle that. We're looking at ways that we can develop incubators and accelerator programs and partnerships with HBCUs and minority serving institutions, because we want to tap the entire creativity of America. Amen. We need you. We're in global competition. We need your help. So we're going to work with all the stakeholders in order to develop a strategy for small businesses and for America. I'll tell you, I am optimistic coming out of this pandemic that we are ready. We are ready to meet the global competition. We have the most creative workforce. We have the most creative people. We just have to unleash it. So I am proud to be the chair of the Small Business Committee. I am proud to work with the stakeholders, including TEDCO. And I am so pleased to see so many creative people that are in this room today. And I look forward to what you'll be able to do to help your families and help our countries. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Senator. So, collisions with Apple, with Amazon, with eBay, with Google, with Meta, with Microsoft, with Square, and TikTok. That's your assignment today, to get collisions with those folks. Senator, thank you for all you do, not just for Maryland, but for the country. And, you know, when you go around, you got to make sure you put this on.
All right. All right.
My marketing people gonna make sure that, you know, there you go. Appreciate you. On behalf of the Senator, the Tech Fair and Exhibit Hall is officially open. Let's get at it.